are of readers are 18 to 24 years of age? What percent?
I'd say 60%, the majority probably.
Okay, so next slide, Camelia. I think she's working on getting the slide deck back up. Is it on my side or your side? I will give you the answer though while Camelia is pulling up the next slide, Camelia. There we go. 27% of people between the ages of 18 and 24 are readers, and by far, it's the largest percent. Take a look at the group that is 70 years old plus. By the way, that's my group, 71. It takes, for every 3 of us, there's 1 who is 18 to 24. So what is it about Wikipedia that 18 to 24-year-olds make up such a large percentage? I don't have the answer to that either, but this is something else that you can think about in the days ahead as you do your studies. All right, next slide. So I'm not going to quiz you about the next one. I do want to show you, though, that of the responders who are not students, there were other questions for those who said they were students, but those people who said, I am not a student, the majority, 55% of the readers of Wikipedia have at least a bachelor's degree. Again, one must wonder about all the people on planet Earth who could be reading Wikipedia that don't have a bachelor's degree and that they choose to look at other things but not Wikipedia. So what is there to say about that? Something, at least something to consider as you do your studies. All right, next slide.
I'm sorry, may I ask a question?
Please, yes.
I'm sorry if I'm interrupting, but bachelor degree is triennale for us. Basically, it's the first year of university, bachelor's degree.
Yes. In the United States, a bachelor's degree is 4 years of university study after high school graduation.
Okay. So first year of university are the majority of people who are writing in Wikipedia, basically.
Are reading. These are all reading.
Or reading. No writers though, so
yeah, we're going to get to the writers next.
Okay. Thank you.
Who's reading? Yep. All right, next slide. So on to talking about the writers, the editor gender gap. Next slide, thank you. Here you have it. It looks like over the course of the last 5 years or so, since 2019, about 80% of editors, it vacillates a little bit, about 80% of editors are men. And you need to think about this as we continue the whole rest of the slide deck. I told you at the start when the policies were created in 2001, 2002, 2003, 90% of the editors were men. Well, now it's about 80% of the editors are men. And how this affects everything else I'm going to talk about is that Wikipedia is built on volunteers. All of us are more or less anonymous. I'm not anonymous. You see who I am. You know my name. But mostly everyone is anonymous. And yet we know this, about 80% of them are men. So if we need to reach consensus on anything, on any Wikipedia, we can figure about 80% of the people who are taking part in the conversation on a talk page, or creating an article, or talking about deleting an article, or nominating an article to become a good article, about 80% of them are men. That's not necessarily good or bad, but it is a number, and we need to pay attention to it as we go on through this slide deck. All right, and you can see the percentage of women, it changes a little, I've seen 10%, 12, 13, I've seen 15%. This is what I can tell you about statistics. Mind you, I am not the Yoda of statistics, and probably Camelia has me beat on that because I know her educational background. But I can tell you this about statistics. There are all the people who are Wikipedia editors, and then the very few who got a link to take the survey. It's some random number of people who got the link. And then of those who got the link, some percentage decided that they will fill it out. And of those who decided to fill it out, some of them came to the question regarding gender and decided to answer it truthfully. And some of them decided, I'm not going to answer it at all, and they're accounted for in this graph. And some decided that I am not going to reveal that what my gender is to who those people are that can see the survey results. They will know my IP address, they'll know my gender. I don't know what they will do with that information, so I'm going to lie. I'm not going to disclose my gender. Ergo, what you see here is more or less correct, but no one can say with certainty that these are facts. What we can say, these are the results of a survey taken at one point in time. Okay, on we go. Next slide. In 2012, a group of academicians wrote an article called Conflict, Criticism, or Confidence. Why I bring this up, 2012, 13 years ago, and yet their findings ring through true today. Their gender research literature suggested that the difference in Wikipedia's contribution rates between men, women, and other genders could be due to three factors. Number one, the high level of conflict in discussions. Number two, dislike of critical environments. And number three, the lack of confidence in editing other contributors' work. As I said, this was written in 2012. It has not changed by 2025. It's a challenge. Next slide. Jess Wade is a scientist in London, and she is known for writing one woman's biography or biography of LGBTQAI plus biography a day of scientists. And she was awarded for that by the Wikimedia Foundation and had quite a bit of press. When asked, tell us why you do this, this is what she said. The majority of editors are white men. So many young people use Wikipedia as the sole source of their information. They go to Wikipedia first when they're looking something up. And I don't want that to be an incredibly biased view of the world. The people that you read about would only be men, and that really frightened me. And that's what got Jess Wade started to become an editor. I will say this, has it been a smooth road or a rough road? It's been some of both. Well, she is applauded for the work that she has done. Not all of her articles have stuck. Some have been deleted. And certainly there have been contentious discussions that she has had to deal with. Imagine you're a volunteer and you work full-time and you're a scientist and you have a personal life and you have to spend your volunteer time defending why you wrote a biography. It can be exhausting, and yet she sticks with it. Next slide, please. On we go now to shifting from the reader and the editor to the content, to the representation about women. By representation, I am talking about women's biographies, women's works. For example, the paintings they painted, the sculptures they sculpted, the schools they founded, the conferences they convened. I'm talking about women's issues, articles about women's health, women's suffrage, and so forth. And so I show you this in a nutshell. 15 years ago or so, I was contacted on Wiki by a man I had never met at the time, who said, "Rosie, I see you like to do translations from one language Wikipedia into another." At the time, I was translating articles about in Spanish about monasteries and convents. He said, "I just came across a book at a used bookstore called the Diccionario Biográfico, Geográfico y Histórico de Venezuela, published in 1957. It's got a whole bunch of articles in there, a whole bunch of different kinds. Do you want me to send it to you and you can do some translations?" I said, "Sure." He mailed it to me, and I started browsing through the book. And as I did, I saw all these men's names: priests, poets, pianists, generals, colonels. And then I found a woman's name. And then again, all these men's names. And then a woman. And I decided I'm going to count them. I did. I counted all the biographies in that book, which had lots of other articles. Of the biographies in that book, 3.6% were about women. So maybe we should say, yay, when we look at the next percentage. 15.53% of the biographies on English Wikipedia in October 2014 were about women. Here's why this is a milestone. Before December 2014, when this fact was published, before December 2014, we had no information about percentages. None. It didn't exist. No one had done the academic study of what percentage of biographies were by which gender. Hadn't happened until December 2014. They published by a group of academics their research using an October 24 data dump. It was kind of like, wow, okay, well, we can work with this. We could go to a category and just scan it, and the category for Italian biologists, we could see all these men's names and one woman, and the men and a woman, and then we'd look at French poets and all these men and then a woman, and all these men and then a woman, and then we'd look at pianists and violinists and composers and all these men's names in Swahili Wikipedia, and then we could see it, but we didn't have a percentage until then. 2 months later, February 2015, someone I had never met before left a note on my Wikipedia talk page saying, "Hey, Rosie, now that we have this number, this percentage, how about we write a proposal to go to an international conference and we talk about it?" I immediately said yes, and the rest is what they would say is history. Let me get to that in a moment. Next slide. Not only do we know percentages now across all language Wikipedias, but we also know percentages by occupation. Unfortunately, I don't have a date for this particular slide. I think this is as of 2022 or 2023. You can see I highlighted their writers because I tend to focus on writers, and it's 20-something% of writer biographies are about women. You can see on the far right, the column for other, the percentage is minuscule. So if your gender isn't man or woman, there are so few biographies, and we need to do so much more work, including research in this area. But that's for another talk, another presentation, and maybe that's something that some of you are going to be interested in picking up the torch and carrying it, because no one volunteer can do everything. Next slide. I have to take a pause here. In 2018, for the third time in 117 years, a woman, Donna Strickland, won the Nobel Prize in Physics. Yet she had no Wikipedia page before the announcement. Now, mind you, Donna Strickland works in a lab, and she doesn't work alone. And her male collaborators all had Wikipedia articles. Now, it's not that no one wrote an article about her before the Nobel Prize. They did. Someone did. It had been drafted earlier, but the draft was rejected by some anonymous editor with the comment, "This submission's references do not show that the subject qualifies for a Wikipedia article." Mind you, this is despite the fact that the original editor included a link to a page, you could verify it, that showed Strickland was a past president of the International Optical Society, a major physics professional organization. And she was also a publisher of some of the field's top journals. In light of the Strickland incident, Wikipedia received justifiable criticism for its low percentage of female editors. And yes, the day she won the Nobel Prize, that article that had been rejected and left in draft space, voila, it now had a place on Wikipedia. If you look on the right side of this page, you will see Katie Bowman. In 2019, Katie Bowman led the development of an algorithm for imaging black holes. Her biography was created, but immediately there was a threat of deletion. It was taken to articles for deletion as soon as the article was written. That too received press attention. Thankfully, the article was not deleted. Now, I say this to you. If Donna Strickland had not been a 56-year-old woman, if she had been a 56-year-old man, would her Wikipedia trajectory have been different? Would she have had her biography up before she won the Nobel Prize? I don't know, but maybe. And if Katie Bowman had not been a young woman in her 20s at the time, I think, or early 30s, but had been a young man, would there have been the same brouhaha over that article? Again, I don't know, but I pose the question to you. Moving on. Next slide, please. So here we have an article from 2015. It is 10 years old, and yet the findings resonate 10 years later. The challenge is nothing has changed. Women's biographies were found to contain more marriage-related events than men's. That continues. Sex-related content is more frequent in women's biographies than men's, while cognition-related content is more highlighted in men's biographies than women's. And number 3, a strong bias in linking patterns results in a network structure in which articles about men are disproportionately more central than articles about women. The challenge here is those blue links in articles, there are more links that link into a man's biography than the percentage of blue links that link into women's biographies. Now, mind you, this is something all of us could be dealing with if we understood that this was an issue. The fact is, most people don't know. Most people don't know if there's a biography about Jane Doe, and it says that she was born in Trieste, that you could go to the article on Trieste, and in the notable people section, at least on English Wikipedia, you could add her, the link to her page. And the university that she attended, and the 3 universities she attended, each of them in notable alumni, you could add a link back into her article. These kinds of blue links into a man's biography are more prevalent than into women's biographies. So women's biographies are less central in Wikipedia in general. Next slide, please. I will say my friends, because I shall. My friends, in the end, this is all about society. And here we have a quote from Simone de Beauvoir from 1949. It is not women's inferiority that has determined their historical insignificance. It is their historical insignificance that has doomed them to inferiority. Let us face it, at least historically, more journalists have written about men than they have chosen to write about women. They can choose whom they interview, and they have chosen historically to write more about men than about women. More history books were written about men than about women. More textbooks have paragraphs about men than women, or more paragraphs about a man than about a woman. Biographical compilations tend to have lots more articles within them about men than about women. Times are changing. People are noticing, are recognizing the role society plays, and they're doing something about it. But it takes time to catch up. And so if we understand that the challenge first and foremost starts with society as to how we determine who's notable, how we determine where the reliable sources are that we can verify, it starts with society. You can do something about that, though, in how we move forward. Next slide. So how have we dealt with it, at least in English Wikipedia, but some other language Wikipedias too, is that we have created wiki projects on Wiki that focus on different things. Next slide, please. In 2001, the year that Wikipedia was founded, one of the first wiki projects that was formed is, drumroll, military history. Remember, who were the editors originally? 90% were men. And so what did they create also in 2001? Wiki Project Sports. So they could, as a community, people could talk about what articles we should write about sports. And then 2003, aircraft, 2004, pornography, 2004, video games, 2005, football, 2006, sports car racing, 2006, Italy. Next slide. Fast forward to a day that today we don't celebrate, except that I do, and maybe in the future we will, and that something important happened on February 5th, 2011. And that is that somebody, a woman, created Wiki Project Women's History. Now, why did she do that in February? I will tell you. First of all, she was a librarian, and she was at the University of Oregon, Portland, Oregon. And she thought in the month of March, we could do an edit-a-thon regarding historical women. So she created this wiki project as a way to centralize their work. Now, they were going to do something off wiki at their university, but anything that's on wiki, everyone can see. And so lots of people saw this and decided, you know what, in March, I'm going to stop what I'm working on and I'm going to write a biography about a woman. I was one of those people. I had written tons of biographies about men because those biographies are easy to write. There's so much information. I'd written by then hundreds of articles about geographical places in Nunavut, Canada, someplace I'd never visited, but there were all of these sources I had access to, and the same for Asturias, Spain. But I thought, you know what? I will write a biography about a woman in March 2011, and I added it to that wiki project page. And we repeated this month after month after month. In March 2025, we're going to be doing more editathons than ever before across all language Wikipedias related to women. But this was the first. February 5th, 2011, someone said, let's shine a light on women's history. The following year, 2012, March 2012, again, some people stopped what they were doing, wrote a biography, maybe 2 about a woman, but the other 11 months, not so much. Who writes biographies about women in other months? Except one woman said, you know what, I'm going to start a wiki project called Wiki Project Women Scientists. We'll focus on improving the articles that were already written about women, and maybe somebody will want to create a new article in some month that isn't March, but she created that in 2012. And then 2013, again, March 2013, people stopped what they were doing. They wrote 1 or 2 biographies. Lots of people were doing it. And a woman later in 2013 said, you know what, I'm going to start a wiki project women artists, and we'll improve those articles about women artists and the paintings women artists painted and the sculptures that they sculpted and so forth. And we'll also work on creating new articles, but we'll work on improving articles. And then 2014 rolled around. And again in March, repeat what we just did every other March up until then. But somebody, and you're looking at her, decided to create Wiki Project Women Writers, because by then I was a writer, and my mom was a published writer, and my grandmother was a published writer, was a textbook editor. And so I thought, look at all the women writers in the world that aren't on Wikipedia, and the few that are. And so I created that in September. And someone created a group called Art and Feminism online. And then in 2015, Women in Red. So let me talk a little bit more about that. I think I've got one more slide before I get there. I want to say to you that Jimmy Wales, the co-founder of Wikipedia, starting in 2011, picked one person a year to be what was then called originally Wikipedian of the Year. Man after man after man after man after man was selected for that honor. But not in 2016. In 2016, for the first time, not 1 but 2 women were picked to be Wikipedian of the Year. And interestingly enough, one of those women created Wiki Project Women Scientists, and the other woman created Wiki Project Women Writers and co-founded Wiki Project Women in Red, Emily Templewood and me. We are spread apart by 4 decades. If I'm 71, she's 31. So there's a lot that's different about us and a lot that's similar about us. Next slide. Now I'm going to tell you about this project, Women in Red. Women in Red was founded, as I said, in 2015 after Roger Bambkin asked me, would I work with him on a proposal to go to an international conference and talk about the content gender gap, 15.53% of biographies being about women. And I said yes. After our proposal was accepted, we had a few months to create a slide deck, and during that time, we decided not only will we talk about this number, we will create a project, Wiki Project Women in Red, that, wait for it, we will work on creating biographies about women all year long. You have to remember this would be very novel because no one wants to create biographies when it is in March. We thought, why not? All year long, let's create biographies about women. We won't work on improving biographies about women. Let someone else work on it. It needs to be done, but let's leave it for somebody else. We will only focus on creating more biographies. We didn't set a goal. We knew the number was 15.53%, but we didn't think, we decided purposefully, no goal. It's not 20%, 25, 33, 49, 50, 51, no goal. We will simply move the needle. We knew we could do better. We didn't know how much better, but we knew we could try one article at a time if we didn't have these boundaries around us of the month of March. Other things that are novel about Women in Red, because we are co-founded by a man and a woman, we purposefully said we don't care about the editor. We do not care who you are. We welcome all genders to do the work. We also said we don't care to out anyone, so there will be no emails. There will be no Telegram, no WhatsApp, no Google Meets, no Zoom. The only work we do is on Wiki. If you want to communicate with us, it's going to be on Wiki. If you want to write, it's on Wiki. Everything you do is out full force on Wiki without identifying who is who and who is doing what. So think about that if 80% of editors are men, I will say that probably 80% of the biographies that were written about women since then might have been written by men. Next slide. Here's a photo of Roger and me where we are doing our presentation in Mexico City. Roger's daughter was getting married the weekend of that conference, so he came in via, it wasn't Zoom, it was another video platform. There I am on the stage. Okay, next slide. In the last 30 days, there have been 6,474 page views of our page on English Wikipedia. Women in Red doesn't have a .org. Women in Red doesn't have some other kind of off-wiki presence. So this is how you see Women in Red, and 6,474 page views have happened in the last 30 days. You can see that there are 34 language versions officially of Women in Red, but there are certainly more language versions that are doing this same kind of work. Next slide. Here's our talk page. Since we were founded on July 18th, 2015, there have been 35,601 comments. That's as of this morning. that have been made on our talk page. As I said, there's no other way to communicate with us. What are most of these comments? Mostly they are this: hi, I just started an article on Jane Doe. I need help. Can someone help me, please? And because we have so many members and page views of this page, in less than 24 hours, someone is helping that person. Next slide. Women in Red has many subpages, and I will talk about a few, starting maybe alphabetically with, we have an article alerts page. The article alerts page alerts us to articles that have not been nominated for the Did You Know section of English Wikipedia. It alerts us to all articles that have been nominated for deletion. Next slide. It alerts us to all articles nominated to become good articles. It gives us a lot of different alerts. In fact, there's a link at the bottom where if you only want to see the alerts, you can sign up and just get alerts to this page. I circle at the bottom that this page is one of many pages associated with categories on English Wikipedia, so that we can talk about that for a moment. If you can scroll to the next slide. Women in Red has 55,283 pages in the categories section of English Wikipedia. That is to say, we have become very prolific on Wikipedia. In anything that's related to us, we have it documented and cataloged and indexed and categorized. Thankfully, English Wikipedia is happy to see us do our work. Next slide. We have several navigation pages. This is our main template where we can at a glance see how to get to different sections of our work. I've drawn an arrow there that if you want to see all our past events, you the circled show, and then you click the link, and then you can see all the past events. You can see the current events. You can see all different kinds of things related to Women in Red. Next slide. So if we focus on moving the needle, creating more content, we have to plan for how do we create more content. And that is, we plan events. We normally run about 5 events per month. One event goes on for many years. We call it hashtag One Day, One Woman. In other words, every day, write a biography about a woman. We have a year-long initiative every year. This year, our year-long initiative is music. Everything related to women who are performers, singers, violinists, pianists, composers, hymn writers, all the songs they've written, and so forth. And then we have things that are generally like 1 month long. So here you can see, what we did last month and what we are doing this month. And on this page, who works on this planning page? It's just volunteers. It's you and me, again, and your next door neighbor and my next door neighbor. And then we share the workload, like who's going to do the majority of the work each month in developing this. And we have a sign up page where you can sign up and say, I volunteer. So I'm going to do the majority of the work for March. And so my work is going to start February 15th. I got to start gathering stuff together and asking people who volunteers to create what, so that we're prepared toward around February 25th to be totally prepared for what's going to happen in the month of March. You can see the icon we use for that is a cup with the Wikipedia logo and these golden kind of ideas stemming from that cup. On to the next slide. Our mailing list, after we've decided what our events are going to be, we notify people, and we have something about 1,600 people on our mailing list. They will receive a notification on Wiki, on their user talk page, that notifies them about what's happening next month. Next slide. So here's the examples of what, if you were signed up to receive these, the notice you would have received in January, the notice you would have received for what we're doing in the month of February. We try to keep it concise because there are so many different newsletters that people get from different communities. This is what ours looks like. All right, next slide. So in February, from, I just caught my error, from February 1st through the 28th, one of the events we're doing is Black women. And you can see that there's already 164 revisions have been made to this page. So a lot of articles have been written. And there have been 694 page views of this event. Next slide. So I mentioned we do each year something special, a campaign that goes on for 365 days. In 2024, that was education. Women related to education. Mostly they would be educators, so professors and so forth, deans, lecturers, but they were also women who founded schools and such. And it was also their schools that they founded. For this campaign in 2024, 1,066 new articles were created. Next slide. So here we are in 2025. What's the campaign? The campaign this year is music. So women vocalists and musicians and composers and all the songs that they composed and the instruments that only women play and so forth. You can see on the right side of the screen that we provide lists of names of women who are notable but are now a red link. They're missing from Wikipedia, so you don't have to search for everything yourself. We provide lists of names. We call these red lists. It's lists with red links. Next slide. You can see the some of the articles that have already been written and the country of the person that's the biography is about. You can see on the right that we also upload images that might have been a red link, but then they turn into a blue link because we found a photo, so now somebody might write the article about that person. Next slide. Every event that we have has a talk page template. So not only is every article related to Women in Red have a talk page template that says this is related to Wiki Project Women in Red, it says specifically which event. In this particular case, it was the first person on the list for music. So the most recent article was Gaja, a song that must have been written by a woman. It's related to the music event. And so you can see how I've circled below. That article is related to Wiki Project songs. Somebody put Wiki Project Eurovision, Wiki Project Poland, but also Wiki Project Women in Red, the music edit-a-thon. All right, next slide, please. We found very early on how powerful it is to include images in articles. They get more page views, but they also get more interest. And so we started right away in 2015 with adding photos into Wikimedia Commons related to women and it was a slow start, but by the next year we were going all blazes. Total looks like 35,156 images have been uploaded to Women in Red's category on Wikimedia Commons. Certainly not all of these images have been uploaded to Wikipedia, but many of them have. Next slide. So for example, you can see the ones at the top. This is from 2025. This is just recent. Some are in colors, so these would be very recent kind of images. You see some that are in black and white or sepia. These would have been women whose photo was in a public domain magazine, and they got cropped out of that magazine from, Internet Archive or some such, and then added as potential article that could be written, or maybe she already has a biography and this can be added to it. You see towards the bottom, looks like frontispieces or the cover of a magazine or a journal. So if it was written by a woman, we collect those too. If we find her signature and it's licensed appropriately, we crop her signature and we add it here too. If we find an image of the school she founded, we crop it and we add it in here too. Next slide. One of our members of Women in Red likes Pinterest. So if an article was created and posted on one of our meetup pages, for example, music or Black women, every month she starts a new Pinterest page where she adds that woman's photo. Here you can see what that looks like for last month or January. We also have a presence on Facebook and Instagram. We used to have it on Twitter, but not when it became X. Okay, so winding it up about Women in Red, two things are most important to us. One is numbers, metrics. How are we doing with numbers? Because that's what we're about. And the first thing you see on the left is the articles that have been created by month. We have a bot that goes and picks them all up and gives us that information. And on the right, you see our index to our red lists. So we've created more than 1,000 lists of missing women, crowdsourced lists, Wikidata Sparkle query lists, authority control lists, website lists like BBC 100 Women lists, by alumni of universities, by employers, by year of birth, by first name, by occupation. We've sliced it in so many different ways and really haven't touched the tip of the iceberg. There are so many lists we could create. We just lack people power to create them, and we could use some more help with that. So these are the two most important things. If there's nothing else that you remember about us, is we try to move the needle by number of articles created, and we try to create more lists capturing all those missing women so they are not forgotten by history. Next slide. In 2016, just a year after Women in Red was created, it was honored by being shortlisted by the ITU UN Women for the Gem Tech Award in the category Apply Technology for Women's Empowerment and Digital Inclusion. And 2 years later, I was knighted by the Serbian Ministry of Foreign Affairs for my work in developing gender work on Wikipedia, as well as because of who my grandfather is, someone who is very notable in Serbian history. Next slide. So Camelia mentioned off-wiki governance is an important part of who we are and ties in with what we do. And the next slide will indicate that in July 2015, the first off-site group related to women was created. I co-founded it with 3 other women. We called it Wiki Women's User Group. Couple months, 3 months later, the Spanish language version, WikiMujeres, was created. Few months later, August 2016, WikiDonne was created by Camelia and whoever her co-founders were. And then the floodgates opened because several other women-related off-site wiki governance structures, we call them affiliates, were created. The recognition, the conflict management of these, there's almost 200 different kinds of groups now within the Wikimedia movement, has oversight by an organization called Affiliations Committee. So this is a committee that also Camelia and I managed to get elected to, and that in the course of time, at one point I was the chair of the committee. At one point, Camelia was the chair of this committee. So you can see how you start by being a Wikipedia editor and the potential for other things to happen. You know, you make your own path, you make your own decisions, what you want to do. And, you know, I never knew that this was going to be my path, but so be it, it is. Likewise, I want to say that we talk about strategy in other ways too. We've had 3 very large convenings, one in Argentina in 2012, another in that should be Mexico in 2017, and in India in 2023. We've had Wiki Women Summits in Singapore and in Poland in the last couple of years. So we are learning how to convene together to strategize the way forward for us. You know, veterans, you know, women who've done this for a while, and then people who are brand new who said, I like uploading images about butterflies. I'm really good at that. Can I have a part in this? And the answer is yes. Come join us. Together we will move forward. Next slide. I want to take just a moment to talk about research. Next slide. And that is to say that a lot of research has happened regarding gender. If this is an area of interest to you, like it is to me, you can zap that on your phone. The Wikimedia Foundation does research. The Wikimedia Foundation funds others to do the research. For example, the work I'm doing with the University of Queensland. There is peer-reviewed research that we include in a long list. There are theses and dissertations about gender and Wikipedia that are included in the list of research. Next slide. My first research project that I was affiliated with is something I decided to do in 2017 and received a grant for, and it was called Gender Diversity Mapping. The first time ever within the Wikimedia movement that somebody decided to interview a group of Wiki women and ask them the same 26 questions, and then analyze the data and publish a report. Of these 65 women, 29 countries were represented and 26 language groups. Next slide. 2 of the comments, I've anonymized them, are here. I won't spend time on keeping this up, but you'll be able to read it later when you have access to the slide deck after I make a couple of corrections to it, Camelia. The next slide is the current project I'm working on. This is great. In 2025, January 2025, I accepted a position as a volunteer with the University of Queensland, who wants to measure the gender gap. It's very similar to the project I did in 2017. What we're doing is interviewing, either people can respond by answering in writing or participate on a Zoom call and answer some questions regarding, have you ever written a biography about a woman, and how's that experience been for you? So if any of you have written biographies about women and are interested in participating, I would warmly welcome an opportunity to share more info with you, and hopefully you'll say yes and agree to be part of this research project, because this is how we learn from each other, is by participating in academic research. Please consider it. And if you do want more information, just reach out to, tap Camelia's shoulder. She knows how to connect you with me. Next slide. For the last 3 years, I have served on the Wikimedia Foundation Board of Trustees. My term ended December, 2 months ago. But people say, so now that you're not on the board anymore, what's on your mind, Rosie? Next slide. I have talked a lot about women and gender and challenges and opportunities and what our accomplishments, but other things are on my mind too. Wikipedia and AI. I think everyone is thinking about AI in different terms, but no less than Wikipedia and AI. Where are we and where are we going? In fact, tomorrow I get on a train and I go to a conference to go, listen to bright people talk about that. I think about editor safety. I think about editors who are at risk for ideological reasons for what they're editing. I think about incoming traffic to Wikipedia. How many people are coming to read Wikipedia? That large number of youth that are coming. Why aren't we attracting people of other ages in different percentages of them? I think about mobile editing. I don't edit on mobile. I read on mobile Wikipedia. I don't edit Wikipedia on mobile. A lot of people do. So I think about that. What can we do to make a better interface for them? I think about supporting youth. And by youth, I'm talking to you. I think about mentoring women's groups. I do this a lot. Women who say, we are a group of jewelry designers. We are international jewelry designers. There are all of these articles about international men who are jewelry designers and so few about women. We're a group of women from the World's Parliament of Religion. So many articles about Swedish bishops, but so few articles about women bishops. We are a group of women studying why the women associated with Adobe from the 1980s are so poorly represented on Wikipedia when men associated with Adobe have Wikipedia articles. We are women associated with electronic literature. There's all these biographies about men associated with electronic literature, so few about women. I mentor these groups. I think about governance models. I've just talked a little bit about that. I think about readdressing the policies created in 2001, 2002, 2003 that, are, at least need people to look at them again. And I know we deal with consensus. And if mostly it's men who are making, their opinions known, maybe we can't change the policies, but we need to look at them, year after year and see, is there something we should change? And maybe last but not least, a new love of mine is wiki portraits. We are people, volunteers around the world who are going to different kinds of festivals, sporting events, film events, literature events, you name it, and taking photos and uploading that photo in the person's Wikipedia page. And I will leave you with one example. I was at a conference in October. At the cocktail table where I was standing, there were people I'd never met before, and one started talking about all the tech work that he had done in not just Silicon Valley, but around the world, what he was known for. And I said, you sound like somebody who probably has a Wikipedia page. And he said, yes, he had one. I said, how's your photo on that page? And he said, oh, I really don't know, but probably not very good. And I said, well, how about I take your photo and I'll upload it. What do you say? And he said, yes. And so I took his photo and I completely forgot about that photo until January last month when I'm looking through my photos because of some other reason. And I see this photo and it's like, oh, this is a really good photo, but I don't remember who he was. So I asked some friends who have image recognition software, and they said, oh, that's John Massey. It was very important in the tech world. And when I went to upload the photo into John Massey's Wikipedia article, I found he had had an article since 2004, and there was never a photo in his biography. So I leave you with that. Take photos and upload them into Wikipedia. Next slide, last slide. That's it about me. Now I'd like to hear from you. What are your questions, your thoughts, your feedback, anything you have to say? Warmly welcome. Thank you very much.
Okay, can I say something? Okay, thank you so much for this work. It was very interesting, and I personally find this very interesting because I'm a sociologist, and so my work usually goes around cultural and gender gaps. So the fact that Wikipedia, especially female Wikipedia voices, especially in Italian, are very few. I had no idea about this before doing this work with Camelia, and but I personally thought about one video that I saw the other day about Italian professor who's called Alessandro Barbero, and he talks about how very few records exist about female medieval women, and he explained that they don't exist, these simple records about women every day in medieval times, because it was not important to record their lives. The only records that we have about these women in that period are women very different from their gender normal, so witches, saints, and it's very common, especially in our country, because the Inquisition kinda had all the knowledge about these women. We don't know who these women were, if not for the church. So I find it very interesting because this kind of knowledge does not exist in Wikipedia Italia. And I also think because at least in my history, my perspective, usually Italian girls are not very associated with technology, at least in my history. If you're a young girl who uses technology, for example, gaming, or you do streaming, or you do work on Wikipedia, it's something strange. It's not common. So for us, it's also to see the different. It's interesting to see the difference between American Wikipedia or English Wikipedia and Italian Wikipedia, because for us there's a big gender gap between boys and girls about technology. And there is less gender gap between younger generations, in my opinions, but there is still there. Young women don't usually go for technology studies. They don't go for science in Italy, not so much like the boys. So for me, it's very interesting to see what other countries, other cultures view this kind of work. And if I have to say to my friends, look, I'm working on Wikipedia for WikiDonne, they are surprised that this kind of things even exist. And I was very shocked about this. Of course they exist. I mean, they are shocked about it. They don't understand how it could be also useful. Then it's something strange, and that really made me think, because I don't know. It's not talked about it also in Italy. You don't talk about the gender gap that there is in technology within the genders. You don't talk about this stuff. So thank you so much for these informations, and also to Camelia, because I think it's very interesting, and I hope we can do something about it. And also sorry for my English. I'm still learning the language.
Your English is perfect.
Thank you. I have a heavy Italian accent though.
You sound Italian, which is absolutely lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I appreciate it.
I think that information literacy, it's a big issue in our culture. So yeah, we have these differences between men and women inside all the technology systems. So not only Wikipedia, but also the use of smartphones, the use of informatics and so on. So we have a lot of missing professions too. And related to what you said, and I know English Wikipedia has so many categories about professions, women profession. We do not have this kind of situation. And I think it's not only Italian Wikipedia, it's also about Spanish. So the Wikipedia, I don't know French, maybe French they have, but categories about women professions are not allowed. You can find categories about women only related, as you said, related to saints and prostitutes, but not about women architects, women writers, women. Yeah, you can find that this way it's the sign of the culture inside, because if you accept categories women, categories about saint, but you do not accept about profession, actual profession, you have a problem, a problem of understanding what is useful and what is not. So I think that, yes, it's very ideological choose here. So yeah, Mickey, I think you agree with this.
Definitely. I want to thank Rosie because I thought I knew enough about this topic after all these years, but I've discovered so much today, and I'm more ashamed of the situation of the Italian community, or in general, or Wikipedia, with all those statistics and the data that you show. So thank you again. Also for the ideas, the inputs, even if I repeat, in Italy, it's hard to apply them, but it's interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also think, Rosie, it's something related to the last, maybe the last slide you presented, those related to improve mobile, the mobile use of Wikipedia, and also is related to Wikipedia and the AI, and also are some of your thinking list, yeah, and also related to help youth to bring them inside. I think they are very connected, and we saw this also during our educational program in high schools. We are doing this for a lot of times, 5-6 years, and I saw that many of them are trying to editing with the smartphone. So for them, even the laptop is something old style sometimes. So they are, for me, it's so strange, it's so weird to see someone editing Wikipedia on the smartphone, but for them, it's something normal. They are trying to do this, not only logging, not only creating the credentials, so the account. They are trying also to put notes with the smartphones. So if we are not helping them, by improving our interface and improving our app and the technology behind our sites, our projects, I think that we are missing a lot of people who can join. Yes, Ilaria, go.
Yes, I wanted to say that I don't want to do a disservice to my people where I live, but I come from a very small place near Rome, and many people here do not know the newest technologies. They have no idea. There is really a big step. It's a very old culture about what technology is today. They are not aware. That's the way I see it, at least. So the problem is also the culture that there is in Italy about technology, how to use it, what is technology today, what are the devices used for the youngs, and they. Oh, yes. Bye, Lorenza.
Thank you, Lorenza. Thank you too for being here.
And so the problem is also this: they had no idea that the younger generation use a lot of phones. They use AI. They say AI. I heard it from the other day. I work with one of my friends about for an AI project, and they told me, "Oh, you're working on AI for education? Isn't that for Chinese people, though?" This is a real life conversation that I had the other day. So, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like an alien when I speak about these things. So when I talk about, oh, look, I'm doing work on Wikipedia, they made a joke about me working with Elon Musk now. I don't know. It's so weird. You feel like sometimes like an alien when you work on this stuff, because it's not something common where I come from, and I think it's supposed to change.
Yeah, for example, Michele, it's one of the tutors of this educational program on Wikibooks. And we have 5 tutors, and I said, look, the students start to write these biographies. We are writing about women activists, and they started to put some information to write on the sandbox. So please take a look to not write this text with the chat box, chat GPT, because, you know, take a look, please verify, find some tool to check if the text is written with chat GPT, because the risk is that they are trying to do their job in a very in a quickly way, without thinking that is not important to write the wiki books at the end. It's important the process you do to arrive there. So searching sources online, reformulate, translation from English. So a lot of steps that are important for their personal growth, more than writing an article on Wikipedia or an article on Wikibooks. So this is so important to make the students understand that it's what I said to those students here, the same. So it's not so important the result, it's important all the process you do to arrive to the result.
You mentioned translations, Camelia, and this is very important. You know, one of the reasons why Women in Red is successful is, and by saying Women in Red, I mean creating more biographies about women in various language Wikipedias, is when we have polyglots, like everyone on this call, who can do translations from one language into another. We understand that every Wikipedia has its own policy. So when I translate mostly from Spanish, Catalan, and French Wikipedia into English, I only translate those articles that I know will meet the requirements, the policies for English Wikipedia. Likewise, I'm sure if you did translations from some Wikipedia into Italian, it would have to meet the requirements, the policies of Italian Wikipedia. So it also opens the door, though, to work that's already been done. If I can read Spanish, I can read those references, I can verify those facts. I do. I then verify what's been written, and I change the words a bit so it accommodates, English Wikipedia. It's not just like a, machine translation. But some of it might be close, at least. And then voila, that article has been created a lot quicker than if I started from scratch. So I'm putting that as a bug in your head to think about. If you are capable of doing translations, you should consider translating from Italian into other languages or some other language into Italian. If there is something that you think is missing from, let's say, Italian Wikipedia and it's available somewhere else. But of course, it has to meet the requirements for Italian Wikipedia or Italian Wikibooks.
Exactly. It's because it's also an exercise for you, for yourself to understand better, to be capable to read and translate and write in other languages too. So I think it's very, very important to know. Helps a lot. So some other questions or. Marina, I present you Marina, which is our treasurer. I saw her connected during this meeting. Hi, Marina.
Hi. Yeah, very interesting discussion. And yeah, I agree that there is a lot to do in the Italian society in terms of understanding the role of women in society. And definitely Wikipedia can do something and WikiDonne can do something, but it will take time. And this is not a widespread perception within the Italian population that there is something that has to be done to change the culture. So yes, we rely on this group of people that are sitting here and are really willing and wanting to do something, because yes, we need to talk more about these things, and and we need to write more about these things, especially also, translation into Italian of not all of Wikipedia writing about women is actually translated into Italian, and the language is a problem in Italy, because not all, I would say that a minority of Italian people can actually read fluently, or never mind speak fluently or understand fluently English. But this is not a problem, and the language is of course something like part of the culture. But then you understand that something may be available, but it's not available to us at large, because we cannot reach because of the language, or we don't understand fully the meaning of the text. So it is really important that to work in this direction, to make sure that more of this culture that is already available in other languages is also made available into Italian. And it's also important that we look at the Italian women that have been, to some extent, ignored or, kept into
Yes. Opted.
dismissed, or yeah, okay, you were there, but anyway, you were. No, I would say that the Italian National Association of Partisans has been doing a lot of work over the last few years to promote knowledge of what women did during the fight against Nazism in Italy, because they were part of the resistance, but when everything went back to normal, they were like, okay, you were there, but you were not doing so much. You were just bringing.
You didn't want a medal. Usually they say.
Yeah.
So you are
Many
not
of them never got a medal, but whether most of the male fighter did. Although many of these women were tortured, were killed, they didn't speak, and the memory, has been a lot of work to bring up the memory about these women. So this is just an example of things that we are doing now in 2025 or 2020. But these events date back to 1945. And so a lot of these women were ignored for about 50 years. And it's important that the memory is brought back to life. And we are grateful that the Italian Association of Partisans is doing this. But of course, there are also a lot of other fields like science, like arts, like education, where women did a lot. But again, the general idea is that, the place for women was home and bringing up children. And unfortunately, this is coming back now because the birth rate in Italy is really low now. And so there is this idea that, women, why are not you making more children?
Yeah, family.
It's all our fault now.
Turning back to family. So thank you. I want to thank. Let's thank Rosie if there are not other questions. Let's thank to Rosie to accept it, to be here with us for almost 2 hours. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated getting a chance to get to know you. And I, in whatever way my work could support what it is that you're doing is important to me. So I was grateful for the experience and glad that you invited me. Thank you for that, Camelia. I'll go ahead and let you go. And you can continue all conversations.
And have a nice evening. Thank you all, guys, also students and the tutors, and also have a nice evening.
Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao Camelia.
Ciao.
Buona serata.
Ciao Ilaria. Ciao Giada.